I'm going to be showing you guys how to do a guided project from SimNet. And so basically I'm going to walk you through the steps. We're normally going to do these during class, but because we don't have class today, I'm going to record it so that you guys can try it on your own at home. You're going to need to have Office 2013 installed. If you don't have it on your own computer, then you can do this in the lab at school. And I'm going to be using Google Chrome because it works with SimNet the best. You can actually use any of the browsers, but the steps that I go through, if you're using Firefox or Safari, your screen's going to look a little bit different. And you might also have a different screen if you're using a more recent version of Windows. I actually have Windows 7 on my computer, so I don't have the tiles that look like a tablet. If you have Windows 8, your screen's going to look a little bit different than this. And so, I'm going to be using the book. If you have a copy of the book, then you can find the instructions at the end of Chapter 1. What we're going to go through, though, I'll show you the steps. You can actually print the instructions if you like to have them on paper in front of you. So we're going to open up Google Chrome.
No, I'll take it!
And I'm going to expand this. And I'm going to go to leewardcc.simnetonline.com. That's the website for the book. And you can stop this video at any time, so if you're following along, if you want to hit pause, whenever you get to a point where you want to stop, go ahead. I'm going to just keep going. So leewardcc.simnetonline.com brings you to the login page. During the first night of class, we created an account, so you're going to type in your username and password. My screen at first is going to look a little different than yours because I'm going to be logging into the instructor screen. When you log in, it should take you straight to the assignments page. One thing I want to show you real quick before we get into the guided project is the Sim book. So if you guys could go ahead and read through chapters 1 and 2 before we come back to class next week, Monday, it'll probably make it a little easier to go through the projects. For this Sim book, if you click on it, basically what it shows you is all of the sections in each chapter. And you're going to basically only have to read through from the chapter overview through the chapter summary. Everything that comes after the chapter summary is just the instructions for the various projects for that chapter. And you notice that here they all say none. You're not required to do any of them, so you don't need to worry about getting those checked off. What you're going to do when you go through the Sim book is you start from the beginning, and you can go and do this in multiple steps. You don't have to sit and read the whole chapter at once. But you can click on whatever section you want to read, and it's going to look very much like a print book. So if you notice, there's little arrows. As you finish reading, you can click on the arrows to move to the next page, and then you just keep reading, and then you can scroll up and down. So some sections are longer and you have to scroll down a little further. But after a certain number of instructions, you're going to come to a section that says show me, guide me, and let me try. These are tutorials that take you through step by step what that particular section of the chapter is talking about. So in this section, it's going to help you go through how to save a new document. And so you don't have to do the show me and guide me. You are welcome to skip straight through to the let me try if you want. And then as you finish them, you're going to just keep going. And you just keep clicking through the arrows from one section to the next. If you decide you want to stop and come back and do it later, up in the right hand corner you have an X. You can click on it, and then it's going to ask you, are you sure you want to exit? And then you can click exit. And when you go back to the section, it should have a check mark showing that you've read that section. Now, I didn't do the let me try, so I didn't earn any of the points. But had I done the let me try, you will see these points start to populate. And after you finish both of the let me tries for that section, you'll get a check mark here. And so the objective is to try to get check marks from the chapter overview all the way through the chapter summary. And you want to have all your points. And that's how you get credit for doing a Sim book. So I'm going to go back to the assignments, and now we're going to walk through how to do the project. And so whatever project you want to work on, the steps are pretty much the same. From the assignments page, you click on the project, and then you have 3 steps. We're going to start with step number 1. So in the first step, we're downloading the files we need. And sometimes there's 2, sometimes there's 3 or 4, depending on what files you're going to need for the project. For this particular project, all we need are the instructions and the start file. So if you don't have the copy of the book, or you prefer to have it on paper, you can click on the instructions, and in Google Chrome, when you download something, it shows up down here at the bottom of your screen. The instructions are always going to be a PDF file, so you'll notice that the PDF downloads, and then if you click on it, it opens up the instructions. So from here, I can print if I want. So when you kind of hover your mouse over the document, it'll bring up this little menu so you can save it or print it. If you choose to just have it open on your computer, you can just have it open and go back and forth from this page to your Word file. The second thing I need to download is the start file. So I'm going to click on it, and then you notice that that shows up down here in the bottom of my screen. When you download your file, your name automatically gets attached and becomes part of the title of the file. That's a security feature, so you have to download your own files. It just basically prevents you from being able to upload someone else's file, so it's like preventing you from being able to cheat on the project. So once you download files to this, it goes into a folder called Downloads on your computer. And I'm going to show you how to open through that. Rather than just, if I wanted to, I could just click this and open it up. But in the event that you download stuff and you can't find it, once it disappears from here, I'm going to show you how you can find it. So
Riley,
I'm going to
stop
minimize
breaking
this screen, and I'm going to open up Microsoft Word.
What did Uncle Kenny tell you to do?
And so once you open up Microsoft Word, you can open up files that are saved on your computer. And you have a whole bunch of different templates. We're not going to worry about those right now. We're going to go down here to the bottom of our toolbar on the left and go to Open Other Documents. And then I'm going to go to Computer and Browse, so that allows me to go to my Downloads folder. So this is, depending on what version of Windows you have, might be a little different. But you should get to this open dialog box. And from here, the left-hand pane shows all the different locations where you can save files on your computer. And the right-hand side shows you your files in your folders. So I'm going to click my Downloads folder because that's where everything downloads to. And this is the file that I just downloaded from SimNet. My files are organized in my folder as most recent on top. If you click on any of these column labels, it'll resort the order. So if I click on Date Modified once, it makes it go backwards, so oldest files first. If I click on Date Modified again, my newest files show up first, and I prefer to have it in this format. If you wanted to sort by name alphabetically, you could do that too by clicking on the name button, and now it's in order alphabetically. So if you're looking for a name, that sometimes is a little easier. I always usually do Date Modified because I have my most recent stuff on top. But there's the file I just downloaded, so I'm going to choose it and then click Open. And now from here, I have the file. So whenever you open a file that's been downloaded, you'll see this gold bar show up at the top of your screen. It's a safety feature. It's asking, are you sure you want to go ahead and open it up, because it might be, compromised or infected. But because we downloaded it from a safe place, we're going to click Enable Editing, which allows us to actually start working on the project. And now the last thing I want to do before we start the instructions is actually step number 2 of the instructions, which is to save the documents. So I'm going to go to the File tab. Oops. The File tab, and I'm going to go down to where it says Save As. So I'm going to choose to save this in my Documents folder. It's just so that I know where it is and that I'm saving it. Now because I downloaded multiple copies of the same file, I end up with a number in parentheses because that was actually the second time I downloaded this file onto this computer. So I'm just deleting that part. But otherwise, you don't have to change anything. You leave everything the same and then click Save. I'm going to replace it because, again, I've downloaded this multiple times. So once you do that, you're ready to start. The reason why I download it into Downloads and then save it into my documents is so that I know that the file I eventually want to upload is going to come from the My Documents folder. Something that some people do sometimes is they forget that they didn't move the location, and they end up uploading their starting file that hasn't been edited, and then they wonder how come they got 0. And sometimes that's the case because you upload the wrong version. So I just like to put it in a different place just for myself to remember. So now we're ready to go through the instructions. So we've already done steps 1 and 2. We opened the file and we've saved it. So step number 3 basically is to change the spacing. And if you look at the guided project instructions, they're very detailed. So under step 3, there's actually letters A through H that walk us through how to change the spacing. I'm going to go ahead and do it fairly quickly, but like I said, feel free to pause the video at any time so that you can fix where you are. And then you can always replay or rewind whenever you want to watch the same steps over. So 3A says to press Control A to select the entire document. So Control on my keyboard, I actually have to hold it down and then press the letter A. And what that does is it highlights everything in the document. When I want to format text, to change the size of the font itself, spacing, alignment, I have to highlight the text. And so that's what I just did. If you prefer not to use the keyboard shortcuts, if I wanted to, I could just click and drag and highlight everything with my mouse as well. Either one of those works. And now I'm going to open up the paragraph dialog box. And letter B, it says to do that. So each of these sections of the toolbar is called a group. So this is the clipboard group, the font group, paragraph group. And when there are more options than what shows up on the toolbar, we can open up what's called a dialog box. So this little arrow in the bottom right hand corner of each of these groups is called a launcher. So in letter B of step 3, it says to click the paragraph launcher. So that means that little arrow will allow me to bring up more options for how to format my paragraph. And so from this dialog box, I can change how it's indented, I can change the spacing, and it shows me a preview of what those changes will look like. So in letters C through H, I'm going to be changing some of these options here in the spacing section. So letter C says to select multiple. So right now it's single space. I'm going to change that to multiple. And I want to make it in letter D, it says to change it to 1.2. So I'm going to type 1.2 in and then click the tab key. The next step says to change the spacing after the paragraph to 12 point. So where it says 0 here, I'm going to highlight, and I'm just going to type 12 with my keyboard. I could also use the arrows if I wanted to. So once I do that, I'm going to click OK. And then I'm going to go back here. And I'm going to click on the Set as Default. I want to change it for this document only, and then click OK. And now I'm done with step number 3. So you notice it's a lot of spaces. Step number 4 says that I want to try to delete some of these extra spaces. So in step number 4, it says to turn on Show Hide. In the paragraph group, there is this button up here in the upper right hand corner that looks like a paragraph symbol. And the other thing that happens if you're not sure what these buttons do, if you hover your mouse over any of them, you'll get a screen tip, which gives you a short description that tells you what that button is called and what it does. So this Show Hide button, it says it's going to show paragraph marks and other formatting symbols. So I'm going to click that, and then you'll notice all of those paragraphs have an extra space in between them. So in step 4, it says to delete them. So all these extra paragraph markings means that I had hit enter twice in those sections. So I'm just going to put my mouse there and then delete them one at a time, so that I don't have an extra, so that every time there's a paragraph symbol, there's only one of them instead of 2 of them. So I just did what they said for step number 4. Step number 5 is asking me to change the font and the size of the font. So I'm going to highlight everything again. So I'm going to hold down the Control key and press the letter A to highlight everything. Font is up here on the Home tab in the upper left-hand part of the toolbar. The font is in this first box, and there's a drop-down arrow. It says in the instructions for letter 5B to find Cambria. If you don't see it, you can start typing it, and it should jump to that particular font, and they're all in alphabetical order. So I'm going to choose Cambria, and I'm going to change the size. So the size is in the box next to the font, size 11. And that's step number 5. So the font's a little bit different than it was in the original. Step number 6, I'm going to change what the title looks like. So it says to change the spacing, alignment, font size, style, effect, and color. So 6A says to select the title. So I'm basically going to highlight that first line and then click the Page Layout tab. On the Page Layout tab, I have a paragraph group as well, just like on the Home tab, but the paragraph group takes me straight to the indent and spacing. so that I can change that without having to open up the dialog box. So in step C of number 6, it says to change the before spacing to 36 and after to 18. I can either click the arrows here or I can highlight and type it in. For me, it was easier to just click the arrows, and it goes up in increments of 6. They don't have to be. You could type in 22 if you wanted to, but you would actually have to highlight and type in that number. And then it wants me to center, so I have to go back to the Home tab for that. On the Home tab in this paragraph graph group is where you have alignment. And alignment can be either left, center, right, or justify. So I'm going to center the title. And then it says to open the font launcher again. So for the font dialog box, I'm going to click on the launcher that's next to the font group. And that's going to bring up a box just like when we open up the paragraph box. This gives me multiple options for the font. A lot of these I can do from the toolbar itself, but when I open up the dialog box, I can do multiple steps at once. So in 6F, it says to change the font style to bold. So under style, I'm going to choose bold. It says to change the size to 24, so I'm going to highlight and type in 24. It says to change in the effects area, check off the box that says small caps. And then I'm going to change the font color. So here where it says automatic, I'm going to click on the arrow. And the fonts have titles just like the tools do. So we're looking for blue-gray text 2. So if you hover your mouse over the different colors, the name of the color will show up. And the instructions normally tell you exactly what color to choose. So I'm going to choose the blue-gray. And then I'm going to click on the Advanced tab, which is what it says to do in step 6, letter J. And I'm going to change the spacing of the characters. So I'm going to change, right now it's normal spacing, so you can see there's, they're not spread out at all. I'm going to change it to expanded, and I'm going to change it by 1.2. So they're a little bit more spread out than normal. And then click OK. So my title is a little bit different than the rest of the text. And that's step number 6. It's talking about how to change the font. Step number 7 is going to show me or ask me to move some paragraphs around. And so you have a couple of different options for that. A lot of people just cut and paste. You can also click and drag the paragraphs, words, or sentences. So in step 7, letter A, it says to select the paragraph. The last paragraph, including the paragraph mark at the end. So I'm going to highlight this whole thing, plus make sure you catch that paragraph symbol. And then I'm going to cut. So either I can choose the tools on the Home tab in the upper left over here, or I prefer to use keyboard shortcuts, and to cut something is Control X. So that takes it away, but I can reposition it where I want it. And then it says to place my insertion point before the second line of the document. So right in front of the D and the word definition under the title, I'm going to put my cursor there, and now I'm going to paste that paragraph. So paste is Control plus V. So Control V, and then I'm going to hit enter so that I have a space after that paragraph before the next line. And then step E in number 7 says to type at the beginning of this paragraph, I'm going to put in a heading. So I'm going to say, where are we now with online learning? Question mark, enter. So the text in the book is red, and the instructions, it should be a different color so you know what to type. And now I'm going to move this paragraph that's starts with hybrid course. But rather than cutting and pasting, I'm going to highlight and then click and drag it. So I'm going to select this whole paragraph, and then it says to move it so that it's before this one. So I'm going to take hybrid course and move it above the television. So once it's highlighted, I have to just put my mouse anywhere over this gray, click and hold your mouse key down, and as you move it, you'll see now the little line moving, and there's a box attached to the arrow. Wherever I let go is where that paragraph's going to end up. So I'm going to put it before the T and let go. So now I've moved that paragraph. So those are the two ways that you can move. It doesn't have to be a whole paragraph. You can move words that way or sentences as well. Step number 8 is to format the headings in the document. So I'm going to start by selecting this first heading, and I'm going to do some changes to the font just like we did for the title. So I'm going to open the font launcher. It takes me to the font dialog box. I'm going to click on the font tab, and I'm going to change a few things. Letter C says to change the size to 12. It says to change the font color to blue-gray text 2. Change the underline style to double underline, and then the underline color also to blue-gray text. So I pretty much changed all of these options that are here in this font color side. And then it also says to choose the all caps effect. Okay, and then click OK. So that's the format for the section headings. And then I'm going to add one last effect, which is a shadow. So in step 8, letter I, it says to click the text effect button. That happens to be this white A with the blue outline. And again, if you put your mouse over it, the title of that button pops up. So I'm going to click on the arrow, and it says in letter J to go down to where it says shadow. And then I'm going to look for the shadow that's titled offset diagonal bottom right. Now each of these different effects has a name, and if you hover your mouse over it, the name should show up so you can decide if that's the right one. I am looking for offset diagonal bottom right, which happens to be the first effect under the outer title. So you just choose it. It doesn't look much different, but it is actually got a little bit of a shadow behind it. And now what I'm going to do is I want to make this sub or paragraph heading look very much like this one. I went through a lot of steps to change the font. I don't have to go through all those steps again because I have a tool up on my home tab called the Format Painter. And what that does is it allows me to copy all of the steps I did to make this font look like this to whatever other section of text I want. So to turn it on, you double click it, and you notice now it's got a blue background. That means it's on and ready. And when you put your mouse anywhere over any of the words in your document, you see what looks like a paintbrush. So all I need to do now with that painter on is click and highlight my next subtitle, and it changes to look like the one I originally formatted. If I'm done, then I can turn it off by clicking back on the Format Painter, and now it's off. So that's a really quick shortcut way of copying so that my multiple sections of text can look the same. Now I'm going to do some formatting of the actual paragraph heading. So in step number 9, letter A, it says to select the online course. So I'm going to highlight that, and I'm going to launch the font dialog box again. And in step 9C, it says to change the font color. So I'm going to make the font color blue-gray. We're going to make it small caps, and I'm going to click OK. And now I'm going to use the Format Painter, and I'm going to copy that format to the other paragraph heading. So I'm going to double click the Format Painter, and then I'm going to highlight hybrid course, and then I'm going to highlight television or teleweb course, and then web advanced course. So, and then I'm going to turn my Format Painter off, and now all my paragraph headings look like that first one. So that's step number 9. Step number 10 is the spelling and grammar check. So you can do this either by running the spelling and grammar check of the whole document, or you can just correct individual words. And so in letter A, we're going to just correct the one word that's underlined. So if you misspell something or there's a grammar error, it'll come up underlined, red for spelling mistakes and green for grammar. Once it's red, if you right click, so you put your mouse over the word and hit the right button of the mouse, it brings up the suggestion for how to fix it, or you can, if you know that that word is correct, you can add it to the dictionary. So the word management's misspelled, so I'm going to choose the correct spelling, and then I'm going to repeat it for the word potion. And I'm going to choose the word portion because that's what it should be. And I'm going to right click any of the other words that have underlines, and I'm ignoring them because those are not mistakes. And now I'm done with step number 10. Step number 11 says to select the sentence at the end of the document and make it italicized. So at the very bottom you have a section in parentheses. I'm going to highlight the whole thing, and to make it italicized, I can either choose the I from the font group up here on the home tab, or your keyboard shortcut for italicized is hold the control key down and press the letter I, and it italicizes the text. And that's what it will look like. It's kind of sideways. The last thing we need to do before we save is to add some document properties. So document properties allow you to tell the computer some things about the document, so if ever you have to search for it, you can find it. So we're going to go to Backstage View, and to get there we click on the File tab at the top, and it brings up all of the different details about our document. It says to click the Info button if it's not already. That's the default, so it should go straight there. And in 12 letter C, it says to click the Properties button and go to Show Document Panel. So this is all of the details about our document so far. It says who's the author. Basically, it's whoever owns the computer. Tells us what the title is if we want it. So we're going to basically type some stuff in here. So we're going to delete the author's name, and we're going to type in the instructions, it says Tanisha Morris. I know that's not our name, but that's what we're going to type. Under title, we're going to type in online learning information. For subject, online learning. And all of this is coming from the instructions. One thing to keep in mind is you have to type, when they tell you to type something, it has to be typed exactly with the correct letters capitalized, the correct spaces. If you do a typo and you mistype something, then that might end up causing you to lose points. Don't panic if you do, because like I said, I'll go back in and correct it myself, but just so you're aware, even though it seems like you're typing everything the way that it shows up, if you forget to capitalize this O, that might cause the program to take points off. In the status area, so we're going to skip over keywords and category. We're going to type draft. And then once that's all typed in, we're going to click on this X here, not the big X at the top, just this one to close the document information panel. Okay. And now we're ready to save and close. So because I've already saved it once, you have a little purple disc at the top of your screen in the upper left-hand corner. That's a quick save button. All you need to do, since I've already saved it, is click on that, and it's saving everything I've done up until this point. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to minimize this, and I'm going to open up my page that has my SimNet. And now I'm ready to do step number 2, which is upload and save. So I'm going to click upload and save, and I'm going to look for my document in my Documents folder. And here it is. And again, you notice that I have a couple with the same name. This is the one I saved, this older version of it. I've done this more than once. But you can also tell because the times, you want to look for, I just finished it, so I know I want the one that has the timestamp around now, which is 6 o'clock. And then click open, and then you'll see it says uploading. If you're ready to submit, you're going to click on the yes, submit the file. If you're just uploading it but you still need to go back and edit, you can click no, I'm not ready, and it'll save it down here for you. And then when you're ready to, you can come back and start working on it again. I'm going to click yes, submit the file because I'm done with it. And then it grades it. So it gives me my grade for that particular assignment. And that is it. That's how you complete a guided project. I'm going to do a video for the guided project 2 for chapter 2 as well. I'm going to go a little bit faster for that one. I'm not going to start from the downloading part. So just so you're aware. But you can go ahead and try this on your own and try to do the guided project for chapter 1.